Gunther has just successfully defended his World Heavyweight Championship in the main event of Bash in Berlin against Randy Orton in a spectacular main event. But what lies ahead for the Ring General? Well, before he can fully assert his dominance, Gunther has one more score to settle, as his sights are set on the man who took the Intercontinental title from him at WrestleMania 40. But thankfully for him, this goes both ways, as after Sami Zayn secures a #1 contender spot, the champion steps forward to confront him, hurling insult after insult in the process. And naturally, this provokes Sami, who charges at Gunther. However, with him still recovering from his grueling match, Sami quickly finds himself overpowered by Gunther, who takes him down with a powerful chop followed by a devastating powerbomb. It's not a good start for Zayn if he wants to pull off another upset of a lifetime. Yet Sami won't take the beating lying down, as the following week, he screams for Gunther to come on out and fight. But rather than him, Ludwig Kaiser interrupts the underdog from the underground. And even though it's not ideal, in the words of Sami Zayn, "You'll be a good warm-up for that bitch Walter." Although as soon as he says this, the former Walter comes out of nowhere and completely annihilates Sami with a vicious lariat. And with him practically knocked out cold, Gunther says, "Now whilst you sit there, hopefully as uncomfortable as possible, whether you can hear me or not, I want you to know that next week, me and Ludwig want you in this ring. But we want a fair fight, you see. So we'll give you the courtesy of finding yourself a partner that's not your 4 out of 10 wife or your idiot son." But just like the previous week, Gunther's remarks set Sami off. Although yet again, Gunther is able to drop him with a brutal powerbomb. Is this just too much for Sami to handle this time round? Well, before we find out, we need to see who Sami Zayn's partner is, and you could say he's a little bit Uso. Jey Uso is here to support his fellow Uso, and he's also here to get revenge on Gunther for how their last match ended. And this translates to the match being utter carnage, as with Sami battling with Ludwig Kaiser up the ramp, that leaves Jey and Gunther in the ring. But Sami is eventually able to dispose of Ludwig as he charges towards the ring and looks for a Helluva Kick on the Ring General, yet he moves, which leads to Sami inadvertently clocking Jey with a devastating kick. Zayn is stunned, and that distraction allows for Gunther to hurl Sami out of the ring back first and nail another powerbomb, this time onto Jey Uso and in the ring to pick up the win for Imperium. But the win isn't enough for Gunther, as he nails another powerbomb onto Jey, then he hits another, and another. Not even Sami can stop it, as he gets taken out by Ludwig Kaiser. Although the beatdown eventually subsides when Jey is completely and utterly lifeless. Imperium stand tall, but can Gunther stand tall at Bad Blood? Well, before we find out, on the go-home Raw before the PLE, Gunther decides to have a warm-up for Sami Zayn, as even though he's banged up, Jey Uso wants revenge. And the Ring General is so confident he can beat Jey that he makes the match for the world title. But with Jey being nowhere near 100%, the match is effectively a slaughter. Gunther just absolutely decimates him in every single way, though he refuses to quit, no matter what gets thrown at him. But he's completely and utterly helpless against the champ, and Sami can do absolutely nothing to stop it. That is until he wants to throw Jey's chances of becoming world champion away by throwing in the towel. But he's conflicted. He doesn't want to ruin what could be Jey's big moment. Though he refuses Zayn's help, he wants to do this on his own, but he comes to regret this shortly after, as with the Ring General completely on top of the match, he just starts pounding into Jey's skull with punches left, right and centre. It's becoming uncomfortable to watch. Blood is starting to pour. Gunther even asks what Sami is doing, until finally he does take action as he throws in the towel for Jey Uso. But Gunther still won't stop. That is until Sami actually gets into the ring, in which he runs away. Or so you think, as he returns when Sami checks on his fallen brethren, with him applying a rear naked choke. Sami has nowhere to go, and he eventually passes out. 40% of peak Bloodline lays at Gunther's feet. But can Sami Zayn prove that that was wrong, just like at WrestleMania 40? Or will the Ring General be able to get payback on Sami? Well, the match is on, and Sami instantly looks for a haluva kick, although just like on Raw, it gets countered with Gunther attempting a German suplex in response, but this time, it's Sami who gets out of the deadly move, and he then proceeds to send the champion to the outside before nailing a big time dive onto him. Then Sami picks him up, although Gunther manages to instantaneously counter a strike from Zayn before clocking him with a vicious chop, then sending him back first into the ring post before slamming him back down with a powerbomb. And once Gunther sends his challenger back into the ring, he just toys with him. He demands for the same fight shown at WrestleMania, although eventually he decides to go for the finishing blow, yet Sami counters with a few key punches and almost manages to roll up the champ for the free. Once both men get up, Gunther instantly takes Sami back down with a lariat. Then from here, Gunther just dismantles Sami Zayn, yet no matter what he does, Sami just won't quit, and after what feels like an eternity, the underdog from the underground starts to fight back. He even just manages to get Gunther up as he nails a blue thunder bomb, although he just kicks out at 2. So Sami, with everything he has left, puts Gunther into the corner and signals for the haluva kick, and he connects it. Is Gunther done? No, he just manages to stay in the fight. So Sami puts him back into the corner and looks for one more. Yet he can't find it, as the ring general manages to catch him and plant him with another powerbomb. Although just like he did merely moments ago, Sami kicks out at 2. Gunther is beside himself, but he knows he has to stay on the offensive, so he yells powerbombs over and over and over again, until finally Gunther mercifully attempts to end the match. But Sami doesn't want mercy. He somehow kicks out of all of that, and this sends Gunther into a frenzy as he nails powerbomb after powerbomb, even nailing one to the outside on the concrete floor. Although after what seems to be the 10th powerbomb of the match, Gunther goes into the cover yet again, only this time Zayn stays down for the free. Gunther has won. He's retained the World Heavyweight Championship. But what's next for the champ who runs the cam? Well, on the following Raw, Gunther has the exact same question, as although the Crown Jewel Championship match is his next stop, he wants to make a pit stop before then. Look, I know Cody is supposed to be the #1 guy of this company, but I don't think he knows what he's gotten himself into with this whole Crown Jewel debacle. And honestly, I don't think Cody is a good enough opponent for me. So I've been thinking about new ways to test myself, to test this company, until it hit me. Why don't I defend my World Heavyweight Championship at Crown Jewel in another match? Then whoever wins that match can go fight a weak champion who needed all the assistance under the sun to finish his crappy little story. How about that, huh?
Wrestling has more than one royal family.
You know what, Gunther? I actually really like the sound of that idea. So much so that I too want to defend my championship at Crown Jewel. So how about we have ourselves a little tournament? Our matches being the semi-finals, and the winner fighting to prove that they are the true #1 of WWE. And with Gunther walking off, this offer from the American Nightmare is made official. But who will each man face? Well, to find out, another pair of tournaments are made to crown them on contenders to their respective brands' world title. And whilst Cody and Gunther continuously trade verbal jabs with one another, the matches rage on, which conclude on the go-home shows before Crown Jewel. And on Raw, the finals come down to Damian Priest taking on the Celtic Warrior, Sheamus. Both men are desperate for a shot at Gunther, but only one man can take it, as after a very competitive back and forth match, Priest is able to catch Sheamus and plant him down with a self-evident chokeslam to pick up the win. The former El Campeon can get his rematch for the world title he never lost fairly, but can Priest turn the success into championship gold? Well, before this, on the go-home Smackdown, after the United States champion LA Knight is able to defeat Solo Sikoa in the Smackdown finals, with Carmelo Hayes, Andrade and Cody Rhodes confronting yet another man who is pulling double duty at Crown Jewel, Gunther attempts to get the last laugh, as he obliterates all three men before staring a hole through Knight. Although with Cody Rhodes opening the show, he's able to defeat the megastar and secure his place in the main event. But can Gunther do the same? Well, the match is on between him and Damian Priest, as both men are going at it like there's no tomorrow. Strikes are being thrown with no care in the world where they land, and neither man will yield. They both want to call themselves world champion by the end of the night, but there can only be one winner, and after a very physical match, it comes down to one key moment. As Priest attempts a self-having chokeslam to finish the match, yet Gunther counters before taking him down with a brutal lariat, and to add insult to injury, Gunther connects a powerbomb to pick up another victory over Damian Priest, only this time in a far more clean manner. And with that, it's Gunther versus Cody in the finals. Who will be the inaugural Crown Jewel champion? Well, before we find out, with Carmelo Hayes being crowned the new United States champion after a spectacular triple threat match, we see a very mouth-watering confrontation between two champions. Hey, big guy, don't think I forgot what you did last night, cause from where I'm standing, Melo don't miss, which means that when I go after you, two-champ Melo will be him. Carmelo Hayes calls his shot at the ring general, and so does Andrade, as he says to the walking down champion, I may have lost tonight, but I've got a bigger prize in sight. I don't care if we're on different brands, and I don't care if Melo wants a shot at you. I want first dibs. Gunther has his hands full of challenges. His plate is filled to the brim of talent, which doesn't get any less empty of his humongous main event match against the WWE Champion Cody Rhodes. And of course, due to both men's previous bouts, they're exhausted. Although due to their positioning on the card, Cody has had more time to rest, which starts to aid him in the War of Gods, as he begins to overwhelm Gunther, who is forced to the outside and subsequently dived on. Although the ring general's awareness is second to none, as with a well-timed knee, he manages to send him back first into the ring post just like he did with Sami Zayn. Cody's spine must be on the verge of being broken in half, and just like he did at Bad Blood, he just plays with his food. Although Cody doesn't go down without a fight, as he too manages to get a close 2 count off a roll-up just like Sami, yet that comeback was only temporary, and Gunther is inevitable, as even though Cody manages to kick out of a lariat and even a powerbomb later in the match, the rear naked choke seemingly proves to be his kryptonite, for like Superman, he fights with whatever gas he has left in the tank, as he manages to get out of the hold, almost rolling him up in the process yet again, before nailing a humongous crossroads, which only gets him a 1 count. Cody is stunned and horrified, so he looks for another, though Gunther counters before nailing another lariat and reapplying the rear naked choke. And this time, there's no more fight, there's no more will, as Cody Rhodes passes out. Gunther is the Crown Jewel champion. He is the best there is, and you could say the best there ever was and the best there ever will be. And naturally, the ring general is very celebratory of his win, as he discusses his huge victory on the following Raw, as he says, you know, I'll admit, Cody, he was decent, mediocre if you will, just like a lot of other wrestlers in the back, but Cody, he did something and not a lot of men get the courtesy of being able to achieve. He got to wrestle the greatest of all time. But that doesn't mean shit, as I am your champion of champions. No cowardice, fraud, BT and Nepo baby champion was gonna stop that from becoming a reality. I suppose you two are a coward then, Gunther. You took me out from behind. A real man would do it from the front. So how about tonight? I get a chance at some payback. But as soon as he says this, he gets jumped yet again, only this time by the man he lost to merely 48 hours prior, as Carmelo Hayes decimates Andrade before saying to Gunther, nah, I get first dibs. So you and me, we're running it tonight. Both Andrade and Carmelo Hayes want a piece of the Gunther pie. So in conjunction with Smackdown, rather than tonight, it's made official that El Idolo will take on the man who calls himself him, with the winner getting the ring general the following week. And of course, Gunther watches the match very closely, as both men tear the house down in their 8th one-on-one match on SmackDown. Both men are giving it their all, but only one man can stand tall. Or so you think. As when Carmelo Hayes is looking for a nothing but net, Gunther comes out of thin air and catches him with a powerbomb, which causes a disqualification win for Melo. And after wiping out Andrade, the ring general gives an even greater challenge. Next week, I'll kick both your heads off. Gunther has dropped an absolute bombshell, and with it being made official, the triple threat match is made for the following episode of SmackDown. But it's not just for the World Heavyweight Championship. As when we get to Raw, Adam Pearce announces that the match will be 2 out of 3 falls, with the first fall being for the United States Championship and the second fall being for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. The stakes are humongous for the main event of SmackDown, and naturally, due to all 3 men's disdain for one another, they brawl all around ringside. But in the end, with Andrade being powerbombed on the announcer's table, and thanks to a well-timed chair shot, Carmelo Hayes is able to take down Gunther and ultimately stand tall. But will this result translate to one of the biggest matches in SmackDown history? Well, we're at the show, and it's no surprise that the match is an instant classic. All 3 men show why they deserve to be champions, but only 2 titles are on the line, so who'll walk away empty-handed? Well, Melo is desperate for it to not be him, as he continuously tries to roll up his opponents, which isn't working, so he's forced to switch his tactics, as he becomes hyper-aggressive towards the World Heavyweight Champion, which doesn't last for too long, as Andrade nails a poison rod out of nowhere, which almost gifts him the United States Championship. But Gunther is back up, yet Andrade fights him off with a barrage of strikes, which even takes the big man down. This is El Idolo's chance, and he doesn't waste it, as he nails a huge dive, though Melo attempts to steal the pin, but thankfully this doesn't work, with Andrade fighting him off. Yet Gunther smartly rolls to the outside, so Andrade focuses his full attention on Melo, which backfires as Carmelo manages to get on top of a well-timed enziguri before following this up with a tilt-a-whirl facebuster. But Gunther is back up as he drags Melo out of the ring before smashing him against the barricade. And from here, the ring general almost snatches away the United States title by pinning Andrade, although Melo manages to break up the pin. And this makes the ring general furious as he completely decimates Carmelo Hayes with several body-folding chops alongside a lariat. But as he looks for the killing blow, El Idolo reinserts himself into the match by nailing a spinning back elbow onto the World Heavyweight Champ. And with him out of the equation for at least a short while, Andrade focuses in on Melo as he connects a picture-perfect hammerlock DDT to pin the now former United States Champion. The first fall goes to Andrade, but as he looks to perhaps snatch the World Heavyweight Championship from Gunther and from Raw, that's when Ring General gets back into the match by clobbering him with a big lariat. Then he throws him into the corner, and after disposing Carmelo Hayes, Gunther then nails an uppercut, knee, and splash before finishing this combination with a powerbomb to retain. The Ring General proves he is just that. He has officially conquered the best SmackDown has to offer. It's not brand supremacy, it's Gunther supremacy. And even though he only got the 1 title out of the ordeal, at least he can say that he stood tall, just like before, and more than likely, just like the next time. But he also wants to stand tall at Survivor Series, as he's on the following Raw and says, you know, after that whole side mission with the 2 SmackDown bums and the team who Dusty Rhodes, I've got to know, what's next? Because Survivor Series is merely 2 weeks away and I don't have a sufficient challenge. And to hell or high water am I being left off the card after what I did to the 3 mid-carders over on SmackDown cosplaying as main event talent. So anyone back there, I don't care who you are. I don't care what your past is. I just want a challenge worthy enough of a Big 4 PLE. So whoever wants to put their balls on the table against the Ring General, be my guest.
Burn it down!
Oh, Gunner. You see, many people expect me to team with that piece of crap Roman Reigns. But nah. Like I told that fake-ass tribal chief, I will never team with him again. So that leaves my spot on the card open. And I feel you and I, we could create magic, you know? Because you're the real workhorse champ. But I'm the real champion. Because once the spell is over and the dust settles, if you step in this ring with me, even at my worst, your reign as World Heavyweight Champion will cease to exist. Whilst I carry this company on my back again, you'll be waltering around in catering and probably become a fat pig again. And Gunther, in response to this, just smirks until he finally replies, "Oh, Seth, you think you could just face me as some sort of consolation prize? That's not what this championship means. This championship deserves the best. And Seth, I gotta ask, are you the best? Or are you just the third wheel like you were in the Shield? 'Cause really, Roman Reigns, Jon Moxley, they, just like I am as a champion in comparison to you, are the upgrade. You're just the spare part." And as soon as he says this, he drops his championship and looks for a lariat, although Rollins counters with a German suplex and then is able to connect a stomp. And with Gunther out cold, Seth says, "Spare part, yeah, I can still whoop your ass any day of the week, Gunther. And world titles, they're no consolations. On your shoulder, maybe they are. So I need to remind these people that is the biggest prize of this sport, no doubt. And at Survivor Series, I bring it home to a true champion." Seth Rollins has made an emphatic statement to Gunther, and with that, the match is made official for Survivor Series. And on top of all that, for once, Gunther isn't the one standing tall. A seed of doubt has been implanted in everyone's brains, including maybe that of the champions. Although before we get to Survivor Series, on the Raw before the PLE, Gunther gets his lick back and proves the doubters wrong, as during the Architects warm-up match against Sami Zayn, the ring general decides to spoil festivities by dragging Rollins out of the ring before connecting a bone-chilling lariat. There was no escaping it this time, though Gunther follows this up with a powerbomb on the concrete floor. Rollins is out, and on top of that, his back might be re-injured once again. And the champ just relishes in the punishment as he taunts at the broken challenger after taking out Sami Zayn before casually strolling to the back. He won't be one-upped. The chances of Rollins winning may have just dissipated to atoms, as this could be the closing scene at Survivor Series. But will this be the case? Or can a jokerized Seth Rollins become a two-time World Heavyweight Champion? Well, the match is on, and it starts off at the pace of the Flash, as Rollins instantly sends Gunther to the outside before attempting a suicide dive, although Gunther unbelievably manages to catch him as he attempts to take Rollins down, though the Visionary is able to fight out of it. But as he does this, he gets floored by a gruesome chop, and as soon as this happens, Gunther follows this up by hurling him into the barricade. And to complete the trifecta of brutal moves, we see arguably the most gruesome powerbomb ever connected by the ring general, as he nails one onto the hardest part of the ring, alongside adding an extra swing to it. And from here, he tries to get a cheap count-out win. He thinks this match, and more in particular this opponent, is beneath him. But at the last possible second, Seth just manages to get back into the ring. He survives, yet Gunther makes him reconsider his choice to continue as he completely decimates the Architect, although Rollins keeps on kicking out, which the ring general surprisingly finds joy in as he tortures the challenger more and more. But all it takes is one chance to turn the tide of battle, and this occurs when Seth manages to nail a desperate pedigree out of nowhere. But of course, he needs more to end the reign of Gunther, so he looks for the stomp, although he's met with another powerbomb in return. But Rollins somehow manages to kick out, and this starts to get on Gunther's nerves, as he then goes to the top rope and attempts to splash, yet Rollins moves, and he seemingly gives him a second burst of life, as he hits the champ with anything and everything, but he makes one critical error, a big lapse of judgment that costs him the match. He tries to pick him up, and with his back already shattered into a million pieces, he can't manage this feat of strength, as Gunther is able to take full advantage of this and nail a third powerbomb before immediately transitioning into a rear naked choke. And with there being nowhere for him to go, with no light at the end of the tunnel, Seth Rollins passes out. Gunther has retained once again, and this time he managed to overcome a multiple-time world champion in the Visionary and nigh on confirmed future Hall of Famer. And Gunther conquered him. He beat him like he's beaten seemingly everyone else. And naturally, he showboats this win in the most condescending manner the following night, with insult after insult being hurled at the absent former Messiah, although this gets the attention of a certain straight edge savior. Hey big man, I think you're forgetting something. Beating that bisexual, cosplaying, stripper-looking piece of shit ain't that hard. I beat him, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose all in one night. All you can say is you defeated a man by re-aggravating his injuries. It's smart, but really, that just makes you a pussy. So how about you face someone who can rise above the hate, huh? A man you could have to go blow to blow with. Me. The man who beat the Shield all by himself, something you in a diaper could only dream of doing. You know, Phil, I could beat you, and don't worry, I will. But this adds nothing to my legacy. You need this match, this championship, to get to WrestleMania. I don't need you to do so. The war of words have been traded. Gunther's new challenger has been named, sealed, and approved. This may arguably be the toughest test of his entire professional wrestling career. Although before the guaranteed instant classic can take place, we have one more Raw to go with their match officially scheduled to take place at Saturday night's main event. And Gunther surprisingly decides to issue an open challenge, as he believes this will more than likely be a challenge more worthy than Fragile Phil. Yet the man who answers the call would actually agree with this nickname. It's Drew McIntyre, and it's a rematch from SummerSlam 2023, and Drew is looking to right the wrongs of that match, as he's firing off on all cylinders on the champ, but just like the last time, it's gonna take one hell of a miracle to best Gunther, although Drew gives his best shot, as he manages to nail a Claymore for a tight 2 count, though as he goes for one more, Sami Zayn trips him up, and Drew is raging at this. But with this distraction comes opportunity, as CM Punk is able to slide into the ring and nail a GTS onto Gunther, whilst the referee tries to remove Sami Zayn from ringside. And once all dust settles, we get one of the tightest near falls of the century. Everyone thought we had a new champion, including Drew, who goes back into the corner for one more Claymore, although he gets distracted for a split second by CM Punk. And because of this, Gunther is able to counter before nailing a huge lariat, powerbomb, splash, and to complete the set, he locks in a rear naked choke. Drew has nowhere to go, and with that, the Ring General is able to retain once again. Drew was so close yet so far, but CM Punk is hoping he will be. And now, the WrestleMania main event caliber match is on. And Gunther instantly looks for a lariat, although Punk is able to counter before nailing a rapid fire GTS. yet this only gets him a 2 count, so he goes for another, but Gunther is able to counter with a few well-timed elbows before he sends him out of the ring, and the ring general of course gives chase, as he hurls Punk into anything and everything, the barricade, the steel steps, hell even the announcer's table. But as is tradition, Gunther looks to poundbomb Punk into something. Although this time, the straight-edge saviour is able to counter, and with this failed attempt at control, the ring general gets floored by a humongous kick before being sent into the ring. And it's Punk for once who disrespects Gunther, as he demands for him to bring it, which he of course does, as both men just start swinging at one another. One shall stand, and one shall fall. And the one to fall is CM Punk, as he gets clobbered by a lethal chop. Then he looks for a follow-up knee, yet Punk is able to move, as he then instantaneously manages to lock in an anaconda of ice. But as quick as Wally West, Gunther manages to escape the hold before finally nailing the lariat. And just like Punk, he instantly goes into a submission, as he locks in a rear naked choke. But the former MMA fighter is able to escape this, which then leads to the two just punching each other over and over. But eventually, both men stagger, and out of sheer desperation, Punk looks for one more GTS, but it's countered yet again with Gunther being able to nail a powerbomb for a near fall. Although this doesn't matter to him, as before long, he's on the top rope and manages to connect a splash. But Punk once again kicks out, so he picks him up, although this is met by a GTS out of nowhere. Yet Gunther smartly rolls to the apron. CM Punk is heartbroken, though he doesn't give up, as he nails a back suplex onto the apron before putting the ring general into the ring, as he then descends from the heavens with an elbow drop. Then he calls for Gunther to get up. He wants, no he needs one more GTS. Yet his needs are not met, as with Gunther countering and sending Phil into the corner, the ring general forces his way to the top rope and manages to nail a top rope powerbomb. And with that, once again, Gunther, though by the skin of his teeth, has retained, as now he holds victories over Seth Rollins, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, making him, in the words of the OTC, levels above. As to close the show, he holds and carries away the old school big gold title. Last night, Fragile Phil proved to be an accurate description, as just like his MMA career, he failed in nearly every department. Even if my face looked like a mess, he couldn't get the job done. Something his wife is probably used to. And you all wouldn't know what that's like, seeing as none of you have lost your virginity. But I am no virgin in this great sport. I have won more championships than times CM Punk has satisfied AJ Lee, which in all fairness is quite a low bar to set. But like I've asked before, and I'll probably ask again till the end of time, what the hell is next for me as your World Heavyweight Champion? I have beaten everyone there is to beat. There is no one, and I mean no one, remotely close to being on my level. I am starved for a challenge. Who else is there, huh? Roman Reigns is here, and after his success in War Games, he too is looking for a challenge. You know, I used to call that championship second rate, but I was wrong. Only after you won it did the title mean anything, and you proved that by beating Cody, the same man who beat me once. But don't forget, I beat him too. And I'm gonna beat you just like I did him, to elevate the prestige of the World Championship to heights only ever replicated by, well, me. With your part-time schedule, I actually forgot about you, big dog. No matter, at the next Saturday night's main event, I will just conquer you, like I have conquered everyone else, and by the end of that night, rest assured, I will have beaten every single Bloodline member aside from your Hollywood piece of crap cousin. But at the very least, they will all lay at my feet. And this gets a much more physical response from Reigns, who looks for a spear, which gets countered by Gunther, who then plants down the tribal chief with a powerbomb. And with this, the match of gods is made for SNME. So to add insult to injury, the Ring General blasts the dazed Reigns with the championship. The message has been sent loud and clear. Although part of this message was to dismantle all Bloodline members, which includes Jimmy Uso. So Gunther takes a trip to Smackdown to confront Big Jim, and maybe soften him up, as the Ring General blasts Jimmy with a title just like he did with Roman. And while standing over the bloody corpse, Gunther says, "So Jim, on Monday, I'll bury your useless ass and use you as a stepping stone for bigger and better things, okay?" Gunther warns Jimmy Uso, and with this, a match between the two is officially sanctioned for the following episode of Raw. And that match is vicious. Jimmy wants revenge on Gunther, and the Ring General just wants to hurt Roman emotionally, as he tears into Big Jim with big strikes left, right and centre. And whilst Jimmy tries his best, he just can't manage to tackle the ferociousness of the World Heavyweight Champion. As in the end, Gunther is able to nail a powerbomb to pick up the win. But that's not enough for him, as he continues the beatdown following the win. He's goading Roman to come out, yet he's nowhere to be seen. And Gunther remarks, "Ha, your own blood won't even turn up to work for once, even to save you. How pathetic." And with the OTC nowhere in sight, Gunther nails one more powerbomb before standing over the bloody carcass. There's no one left to stand in his way, aside from Roman Reigns himself, who's seemingly too occupied with reclaiming his Ulafala to even show up to save his own family. So Gunther just waits and bides his time all until Tribal Combat, as after Roman Reigns beats Solo Sikoa in a hellacious war, that's when the Ring General strikes, as he takes him down before hitting stomp after stomp on the one true tribal chief. He even looks for a powerbomb, which gets dropped by something, or rather someone, electrifying.
If you smell what
The Rock is here, and he's here to save his family, as he stares a hole through the World Heavyweight Champion. And surprisingly, Gunther backs off. Or so you think, as he returns and drags the final boss out of the ring before connecting with a big lariat and nailing a powerbomb onto The Rock. And to make an emphatic statement, he then decides to lock in a rear naked choke. He's out like a light, and eventually, out of possible mercy, he lets go of the hold. But the reason turns out to be just so he can nail another powerbomb, or rather the powerbomb, onto Roman Reigns. Not even Jey Uso can stop his warpath, and Sami Zayn also tries to stop Gunther's rampage, which just like Jey, is unsuccessful. Jimmy's nowhere to be found, and Gunther has just wiped out the entire bloodline in one fell swoop. And the following week, the Ring General gloats and gloats about this assault, even saying, "For the most dominant family tree, it's pretty embarrassing that one man crumbled their most powerful lines of defense in one swing. Jey couldn't do nothing, same with Sami, hell even Dwayne couldn't do shit. And all that leads me is to you, Roman Reigns. Now family business is sorted, I am inevitable. You cannot avoid me like a scared puppy anymore, big dog. And in 2 weeks, I will embarrass the head of the table once again when I cut the head off the family tree and I become God." But as soon as he says this, Roman Reigns comes out. But there's no more time to talk, as he instantly goes after Gunther. And before you know it, he manages to nail a Superman punch. But he wants the spear, and he gets it. yet he still isn't done, as he then goes for another, though as he looks for it, Gunther is able to counter before clocking Rowan with the World Championship. But as the Ring General walks away, the OTC crawls back to his feet, so Gunther goes back into the ring and nails another belt shot alongside a powerbomb before once again walking away with gold in his hand. But Roman apparently has a death wish, as he won't stay down, and this actually makes Gunther laugh. But once the laughter subsides, he goes back for the kill, as he nails a third title shot on the skull before nailing another powerbomb and then locking in a rear naked choke. There's no mercy from the Ring General until he believes the damage is done, as he eventually releases Roman from his grasp and leaves the carcass behind. And on the following Raw, there's no tribal chief in sight, and Gunther is quite happy about this, as he says, "I don't even know if Roman is going to be able to make it to Saturday night's main event, and with his schedule, I wouldn't be that surprised. So, whilst I wait for Roman to get off his arse, I want another challenge. And no, I'm not calling out the Team Bloodline, because believe it or not, they aren't good enough for the main World Championship. That's why they were stuck fighting Cody and Roman for months on end. With that being said, I already spoke to Adam Pearce, and in the main event of this very Raw, I will grace all you simpletons with some real graps. Open challenge style, anyone is welcome." Gunther lays down the challenge, but who will answer the call? Well, later in the night, before his open challenge, he gets confronted by a man who is quite interested in taking away his prize. "Ayo, big man, I see you. I've been seeing you tearing up everyone there is to beat here on Raw, but I hate to break it to you, Chief. You've never beaten me." "Oh, you're the YouTuber, right? Well, congratulations on coming to the flagship show. Why don't you have your debut match on the Red brand tonight and answer my call? You talk a big game and all." Nah, sorry man, I've still got a bad back from carrying the United States Championship to relevancy, but maybe some other time. Of course, I'd only want to face you at 100%, so when I beat another mid-carder cosplaying as a main eventer at Saturday night's main event, if you'll even be there, there'll be no excuses. Something seems to be brewing between Logan Paul and Gunther, but it won't be paid off tonight, so the Ring General moves swiftly on. As it's now time for the main event of Monday Night Raw. Gunther is ready to wrestle, and we finally find out who his opponent is. Omos is back in WWE, and he could return in the best way possible by being the one to dethrone the seemingly undethronable Gunther before his high-profile world title match against Roman Reigns. And naturally, Omos is able to overpower the champ in the early going, something very unusual for a Gunther match, so the Ring General focuses in on trying to take the bigger man down through strikes. Yet nothing is working, as Omos is able to nail a choke bomb, which nearly grants him immortality, though no one can actually be immortal. As with Gunther's feather shook, this unlocks a second gear, as he nails a chop which does indeed take the challenger down, and Gunther refuses to let Omos back up, as he annihilates him with strikes on top of strikes, knees on top of knees, with no mercy left in sight. And to ensure Omos' demise, he locks in a sleeper hold, but Omos is quickly able to escape, though he quickly gets stunned by another gruesome chop. Then with the strength of a god above all others, Gunther manages to connect a powerbomb and fold the giant up for the 3. It's one hell of a statement made by the world champion, but where do we go from here? Well, the following week, it's just more of the same old Gunther, gloating about his wins and how dominant he is, along with hurling insults at his previous challenger. And this time, there's no one to confront him. Roman Reigns is still out of action, and that means there's no one there to stop the Ring General's ranting. That is until he gets cut off by a man who may be his distant future. Logan Paul is here, and after drowning out the boos, he says, "Hey Gunner, I got a deal to strike with you." Okay, kid, get on with it. Kid, I'm in my 30s. What? Ugh. Anyways, if that part-timer Roman Reigns doesn't turn up in time for Saturday night's main event, or is too hurt to show up, how about I step in? So a replacement. Sure, I wouldn't use that wording personally. I'd use upgrade, but sure. Nah, replacement is a better word. At least Roman is an actual wrestler. You're just a YouTuber. But hey, I'll humor you. After Roman Reigns, or if he doesn't turn up like always, you can have a title shot. Mostly because then I can embarrass you and send you back to where you came from. So it seems Logan Paul is Gunther's next target, whether it be before or after SNME. But the question is, will Roman Reigns be ready in time for Saturday night's main event? Well, Adam Pearce doesn't think so, as due to his and Paul Heyman's lack of contact with Reigns, Pearce announces that next week there will be a contract signing for the World Heavyweight Championship match between Gunther and Logan Paul. However, with the contract, if Reigns turns up, he will instantly become eligible to get the title match at Saturday night's main event. If not, we could see Logan Paul become a WWE World Champion. But will we see this happen? Well, we're on the go-home row before SNME, and Adam Pearce introduces the World Heavyweight Champion Gunther for the contract signing. And he's waiting for Logan to come out, and even though he does come out, he doesn't by himself. Roman Reigns is back, and he's got a lifeless Logan Paul in his hands, though he quickly discards the Maverick before making his way towards the ring and signing the contract. And Gunther is incredibly happy with this, as he says, "Oh, look at you, back to full health, I see." Now, before we probably brawl, I want to say my final piece. Call it your last supper, because Roman, you are a fraud. You tried to belittle this championship when Rollins was the kingpin. Now all of a sudden, when I make that championship relevant, you want to crack? I don't care about the championship anymore. And as soon as the OTC says this, he hurls himself at Gunther, with the two men brawling and Adam Pearce escaping the carnage. And with the fury of a million exploding suns, Roman puts Gunther through the table. And once again, Gunther isn't the one standing tall. But last time this occurred, that didn't change fate. Though the OTC, even in its own words, doesn't care. He just wants to get his hands on Gunther. And an additional bonus is that World Championship. The unstoppable force has met the immovable object. Who the hell could rise above the ashes the victor? Who could raise the classic big gold at the end of the night? Well, the match is on, and the feeling out process begins this ordeal. Yet Gunther is overpowering Roman Reigns in this department, so the tribal chief has to rely on his wits and brute force to match the ring general, which leads to him sending the champ to the outside. And his hatred for Gunther gives him an idea, as he dives on the big man with reckless abandon, though he hoists him up and plants him straight back down with a suplex. Then Gunther decides to redecorate the announcer's table. This could get ugly, but Reigns manages to fight back, and with this, he suplexes Gunther back. And he doesn't stop here, as he hurls him into the steel steps before putting him back into the ring as he looks for a Superman punch. The ring general dodges this and floors him with two back-to-back chops. And from here, this match turns into an endurance off, as both men trade big moves like they're going out of business, each move hitting harder than the last, though after non-stop back and forth action, we reach the dying stages of the match, which starts off with a humongous Superman punch. Yet as Reigns looks for a spear, Gunther is able to beautifully transition into a crossface. But the OTC fights out of it as he runs off the ropes, yet he gets dropped by a scoop slam. Then Gunther goes in for the kill as he goes for a splash, though Reigns unbelievably catches him mid-air with a spear. Is Gunther done? Well, no. He kicks out, so Reigns looks for one more, though he can't find it, as Gunther once again counters before nailing a powerbomb. But one isn't enough, so he deadlifts Reigns and nails another, and he does so again for a third straight powerbomb. And with that, Roman Reigns has been decisively beaten and broken. Gunther conquers yet again, and the show goes off the air with Ring General walking away with the big gold World Championship in his hand once again. Yet that isn't the end of the night for Gunther, as Logan Paul comes out of nowhere after the show goes off the air and floors him with the one lucky punch. Everyone hates this, but the Maverick doesn't care, as he walks away from an out-cold Gunther. And on the following night of Raw, it's now Logan Paul who's celebratory of getting one over on the unstoppable Ring General. Though this may be a mistake, as when he starts to talk about Gunther's family, that's when he strikes. Gunther is here, and he's not messing around, as he beats the Maverick to Kingdom Come, and with a powerbomb, Gunther screams, "Royal Rumble, this little fever dream of yours dies, along with your chances at being a world champion." Gunther is all business. This is a nightmare situation for Logan Paul, but can he overcome the odds and become the most hated world champion of all time? Well, we're at the Royal Rumble, and it's time for the World Heavyweight Championship match. Who will inch one step closer to WrestleMania? Who will prove themselves to be the best in-ring worker of WWE? Who will stand tall? While the match is on, and Logan immediately goes to the outside. He wants no part of facing Gunther head on, and instead, he chooses to outpace him, as even though Gunther gives chase, by the time he gets into the ring, Logan is able to nail a picture-perfect buckshot lariat. But that isn't enough. So Paul then looks for a frog splash, although he crashes and burns, as Gunther gets back into the match with an exhilarating lariat. Though he can't follow suit with a powerbomb, as Logan escapes it, with him then trying for the one lucky punch, although this too is countered. And this sets the tone for the rest of the match, as Logan is able to hang in there somehow, with neither man holding the advantage for long. There's seemingly endless counters between the two men, though one counter proves to be the difference maker. As when Logan looks for one more buckshot lariat, it's unbelievably countered into a pop-up powerbomb. And with the sleeper hold cinched in, history repeats itself. As just like on Monday, Gunther puts Logan Paul down. He's one step closer to WrestleMania 41, but who will he face? Well, it won't be Jey Uso. We're down to 4. Who's gonna face either Cody Rhodes or Gunther on the grandest stage? Will it be John Cena? Will it be LA Knight? Will it be Chad Gable? Or will it be the number 30 entrant who forced his spot into the match, Nick Aldis? Well, whilst all 4 men are going at it with everything they have left, due to Gable's grueling Iron Man performance, he is overwhelmed and eventually eliminated by John Cena. But as soon as this happens, Nick Aldis comes out of nowhere and sends out Big Match John. No one can believe it! We're down to the final 2! It's between LA Knight and Nick Aldis. No one saw this in the bingo cards. As whilst John Cena sorts the back, these 2 men go at it. But Aldis is the far fresher man, and he's able to get on top of the megastar, though he just isn't quite able to eliminate him, as the Knight hangs on in there no matter what. Yet he's still getting overwhelmed, but all it takes is one distraction to strike. As whilst Aldis is bathing in the crowd's booze, Knight is able to nail a BFT out of nowhere, and as quick as a fox, he dubs out the Smackdown general manager. LA Knight is going to WrestleMania! Everyone is shocked at the result, but everyone is happy Knight can have another chance to get his moment. He failed in the 2023 Money in the Bank ladder match. He failed at Crown Jewel later that same year. But will he fail at the biggest show of the year? Well, before we find out, we have to figure out who he's gonna choose. Although on the following Raw, as he's looking to potentially give his answer, he gets interrupted by the champ, who runs the camp.
Gunther!
Gunther is here, and he has a straightforward message for the 2025 Royal Rumble winner. Knight? Well, you aren't even a real wrestler. You're just a catchphrase merchant. Hell, you're no better than the YouTuber I just beat 48 hours ago. So if you pick me, Knight, just know I will make your life an absolute misery, where every night you'll wish you chose different. Oh, and by the way, that's your only warning. And Knight responds, "Oh really, you big jabroni? I haven't even made my decision yet. There's so much to consider. But what I do know is you're just a shell of your former self, Walter. So, should I challenge for the longest existing prize in WWE? Or should I uplift the championship by beating your no-good ass and prove why I'm the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, with everybody saying..." Knight hasn't even chosen yet, but one man has chosen Gunther as his first target back. As when the Ring General is leaving the building, he gets confronted by someone phenomenal. Now you have one more obstacle before you get to WrestleMania. You gotta go through me. Yeah. AJ Styles has put his name in the hat for the World Heavyweight Championship! And whilst Gunther is surprised, he actually accepts the challenge the following Raw, which he obviously didn't have to do. And from here, the match is made official for Elimination Chamber. Yet Adam Pearce isn't convinced that AJ is ready for Ring General. So to prepare him for war, he has to face an opponent of Gunther's choosing on the following Raw. Although there's another announcement on this night. As if LA Knight still undecided, he announces that at the Elimination Chamber, after the men's chamber match, he will make his decision on who he wants to face at WrestleMania. AJ could have the opportunity to run it back with the megastar. Although he can't look ahead too much, as on the following Raw, it's time for AJ to warm up for the chamber. And the man to answer the call is someone AJ knows all too well. It's Karrion Kross, a rematch from 2023, and with Gunther watching on from the ramp, the match is on. And Karrion pushes the Phenomenal One to his limit, although at several points, he chooses not to actually cover Styles. And naturally, this makes everyone incredibly confused. Though with no explanation, the match rages on. But with Kross refusing to cover Styles, the match eventually turns in the Phenomenal One's favour, which Kross is fine with, bizarrely. And he even invites Styles to hit him with a Phenomenal Forearm, which Styles happily accepts. As with that, Styles is able to build momentum for the chamber, though he doesn't celebrate for too long, as he goes up to confront the champion, who just laughs in his face. And AJ decides to respond with a stiff strike before walking away. All the while, Gunther just continues to laugh. But the following week, there's no more laughs to be had, as Gunther jumps AJ Styles backstage, with the two beginning to brawl. Although this fight comes to a premature end, when Gunther unbelievably hurls Styles through a window. AJ is out, but Gunther isn't done, as he grabs him and drags his lifeless body through the arena until both men get into the ring. And from here, Gunther just hurls insults at Styles, who barely gets to his feet. And in response to this, Gunther powerbombs Styles back down to the depths of hell. Will this be how the match ends? Well, we're at the Elimination Chamber and the match is on, as it starts out very technical, but Gunther is just barely outmatching Styles in this department, so AJ turns to the ropes as he attempts to use his agility to bring him back into the match. He even flies off the top rope, although the Ring General is impressively able to catch him and plant him right back down. But Styles' fight is relentless, as he hits Gunther with whatever strikes he can think of. He even manages to connect a Pele kick, which sends the champ to the outside. And from here, Styles gets an idea, as he waits for the big man to get up before nailing a Phenomenal Forearm to the outside. but he needs him in the ring, so that's what he does, as he awaits for Gunther's resurrection, with him then looking for a second phenomenal forearm, although the Ring General manages to catch him again, only this time, he then chucks him back down on the concrete floor. And after connecting a powerbomb onto the barricade, this match is completely turned on its head, as just like many others, Gunther is in control for large portions of the contest. Although he doesn't toy around with Styles this time, as after a barrage of brutal moves, he then looks for a splash, although Styles is able to get out of harm's way, but he can't take back control, as he gets floored by a chop before being trapped in a rear naked choke. Although Styles' experience allows for him to get out of the submission, before he attempts a Styles clash, yet Gunther counters before reapplying the hold. It's looking bleak for the Phenomenal One, but not impossible, as he claws his way out of another choke before just flat out dueling with the Chop Master. Yet Styles just won't give up. Even if he gets knocked down, he rises all the same. But he's only human. There's only so much abuse he can take and dish out, something of which doesn't seem to concern Gunther, as he just fights through the pain regardless. So after taking AJ down, he decides to ascend to the heavens, although Styles follows. However, this proves to be his biggest mistake, as Gunther is able to catch and plant Styles with a huge avalanche powerbomb. Gunther is going to WrestleMania, but who will his opponent be? Well, after John Cena wins the Elimination Chamber, the choices are narrowed to two, as if LA Knight center stage with Cena and Rhodes in the ring, he says, "Now after a lot, and I mean a lot of thinking, I've made my choice. At WrestleMania,
If you smell what The
Rock is here. He wants to know if Cody Rhodes is going to sell his soul. And whilst this is happening, we see the World Heavyweight Champion observing from the ramp. Although if Knight being overshadowed, he screams, "Nah, this ain't the Dwayne show yet, cause I got something to say. Cody, I respect the hell out of you, man, but I'll make it simple. If you sell your soul to that corporate no-good bastard, I choose you. If you don't, I choose the bigger man, apparently too scared to come down to the ring." And with a stern silence, we hear the infamous line,
Hey Rock, go fuck yourself.
Gunther's path to the grandest stage is crystal clear, and he shows his enthusiasm by dragging LA Knight out of the ring, with the two brawling out of the arena. All the while, we see the heel turn of a lifetime. But regardless, on the following Raw, we close the show off in style, or shall I rephrase, a bloody mess, as Gunther drags the nigh on lifeless and bloodied megastar to the ring. And after putting him into the center of the squared circle, Gunther remarks, "Megastar, what a joke. This is what I get after busting my ass, making 2 championships relevant. This is the thanks I get? At WrestleMania, I have to face this bum? Really? This is the guy? He's just like Jey Uso with his one-word shitty catchphrase. But I suppose at WrestleMania, I will bury this bitch and send him off to Hollywood with all the old-timers who couldn't lace my boots. Pathetic piece of shit." Hey, finish what you started, you fucking coward. And Gunther does just that, as he charges back into the ring and decks him with a lariat before nailing a powerbomb. Knight isn't moving, and only now, Gunther is satisfied. And obviously, the following week, the 2025 Royal Rumble winner is nowhere in sight. But Gunther is, as he proudly proclaims his premature victory, although he also issues a challenge to someone he believes to be an equal to LA Knight, which turns out to be none other than Akira Tozawa. But in the words of Tozawa, "If I'm on a similar level as a Royal Rumble winner, wouldn't that make me better than you?" And Gunther instantly replies with an absolutely breathtaking drop kick. And with this match underway, he then looks for a chop, but Tozawa is able to counter it and get an unbelievable near fall off of a roll-up, but that's as close to victory as he gets. As even though he manages to take Gunther down, he can't quite manage to connect a subsequent senton off the top rope, and this is what ends the match. As shortly after this, the Ring General plants Tozawa with a powerbomb to pick up the win. But he wants more. He wants a better challenge than what he perceives the night to be. So he calls Otis into the ring for an impromptu match, with the big man obviously accepting. And due to his bigger size, Otis is actually able to put up a decent fight. Although the result is inevitable, as if arguably the most impressive powerbomb he's ever delivered, Gunther has dismantled Alpha Academy. All aside from one. And it looks like he's gonna hit Maxine Dupree with no savior in sight. That is until a hero in shining armor comes out. The former Max Dupree is here to aid Maxine Dupree. It's a mini Maximum Male Model reunion. Although good things are not meant to last forever, as Knight is still banged up from the mauling he received the week prior, so whilst he puts up a hell of a fight, he's no match for the dominant champion, who plants him with another powerbomb before bloodying him up once again. He doesn't even want Knight to make it to WrestleMania, which doesn't go over well with LA Knight, as even though he's battered and bruised, on the following Raw, he opens the show to give what many could consider a bit of a truth bomb on the Ring General. Listen up, you generic prick. I know you and many other people don't believe I deserve to wrestle for a world title, that my time's past, but to those people, I say, nah. Every single time I am here, I'm expected to hit home runs, and well, quite honestly, I've overshot that margin, don't you think? Because unlike the world champion, I have more personality than his entire bloodline. Because unlike Gunther, when my name was changed, people saw it as a good thing. And I know you're barred from the building tonight, but I hope to God you're watching at home with your wife and son, with that beautiful world title on your lap, because we all know she ain't. And I want you to keep tight a hold of that world title, because come WrestleMania, I'll be sending your ass back to the Indies to put on above average matches with people like Mansoor and Marseille. Oh, and Gunther, I hope you know that you got lucky. You weren't ever supposed to even win that title. Hell, you weren't even supposed to become King of the Ring. But just like you've done the day since Paul stepped through the door, you've gotten lucky. But your luck is dead in the water, because unless you're a killer, I'm not going to be put down on the biggest stage. Nah. I'd rather die than watch you bury the prestige of the new big gold any longer. And I'll once again prove why I'm the megastar, with everybody saying, LA Knight has spoken his truth. And immediately after this, it's confirmed both men will be under the same building the following week. What will Gunther have to say in response to this verbal smackdown? Well, we find out when the time arrives, with Gunther saying, I'm so disappointed in you. You know, I actually believed you could be something once upon a time, after you discarded Maxine and them other useless pieces of crap and focused on yourself. You were even Bray Wyatt's last match. But let's be frank, you never earned that honor, and you never deserved it. Bray was a legend. You, well, you're nothing now other than a glorified one-trick pony. Well, let me stop you right there. We all know that I was Bray's final opponent, but did you ever consider the fact that he wanted to face me? That he wanted to work with the future and the now over your boring, stale personality? You're in your mid-40s, you bumbling idiot. Okay, and you compensate your shrimp dick with championship gold. So, respectfully, your insults are more flatter than your title reigns. Full of good matches, with no story and substance. Yeah. And how many titles have you won, Knight? You've won the United States title, the definition of a consolation prize. You technically won the $1 Million Championship, a worthless title if I've ever seen one. But what else is there? You failed to become Mr. Money in the Bank twice. You failed to become WWE Champion twice. Whilst I'm holding titles for longer than you've been on the main roster, you're barely able to get a win on a sunny day, and if you do, it's against some lower card bum who I would decimate within seconds, whilst you'd have a competitive back and forth. And you know what? Good for you. Good for you on having a good professional wrestling match. But that does not mean you can ruin this great sport by parading around in the main event of WrestleMania winning a world championship. You talk about rather dying than losing. I'd rather die than let you main event over people with twice the amount of talent being left off the card. Las Vegas is LA Knight's time, right? Right? I don't have to answer to a glorified Vladimir Kozlov. Well, you see, that's quite funny, Knight, because you're just a Timu Jey Uso, a Timu John Cena, a Timu Cody Rhodes. Hell, you're basically a worse Miz. Only these bumbling buffoons decide to actually cheer you. Well, you got one thing right there, you big dummy. These people actually cheer me. They actually like me. And I'd even put money on your son liking me over than his own father. And this comment sets Gunther off. Although Knight has the ring general scouted this time, as he actually manages to hold his own against Gunther. But the festivities get interrupted by Adam Pearce, who screams, "Enough! I've had it with you two. Lay one more hand on each other and I'm stripping Gunther of the world title and you two are getting left off the WrestleMania card." And of course, they listen, with Gunther remarking, "See you next week, catchphrase merchant." Things have gotten nuclear between LA Knight and Gunther. But where do we go from here? Well, on the following Raw, we find out as Ludwig Kaiser steps up to now almost fully recuperated LA Knight. And the match is a very close one. It's anyone's to win, but it's someone's to lose. And even though Ludwig throws everything he can at the megastar, it's just not enough. As with the BFT, Knight builds momentum to WrestleMania 41. But Gunther, of course, isn't far away, as he gets close to the ring before mouthing off, "Like I said, always about competitive matches, never about getting the win." Although before he can make it to the back, he gets cut off by Adam Pearce, who allows him to fight under one condition. It has to be a sanctioned tag team match next week. And with both men gladly accepting, the match is set. But who will LA Knight's partner be? Well, after a lot of speculation, we find out who wants a piece of Imperium. Sheamus is back, and he's back for blood, as he instantly goes after Ludwig Kaiser, whilst LA Knight and Gunther do battle on the ramp. And neither the world champion nor the challenger can even get the tag in, as after what was essentially a one-on-one match, Sheamus is able to nail a bro kick to pick up the win for his team. But neither Knight nor Gunther seem to care, as they continue to fight, although due to Adam Pearce stepping between them, they know the rule of law will prevail. So they refrain from slugging it out any longer to negate punishment. But can they keep their composure this well for one more week? As we're now on the go-home Raw before the biggest show of the year, and opening the show is none other than the megastar himself. Although before he gets to even say a word, he gets cut off by Gunther. And with the no contact policy still intact, all both men can do is give their final words ahead of their clash. You wanna know something funny, Knight? I failed before. I'm imperfect. I let my emotions get the best of me against Sami. I outright lost to Ilya once, but I learned from my mistakes. Whilst I don't believe you to be a worthy WrestleMania opponent, I won't underestimate you like I did with the others, and I won't hold back in the slightest. You will get me at my absolute best, because that's what this championship deserves on the grandest stage. So what you're saying is when I beat you 1, 2, free or make you tap like a pig. There'll be no excuse when you are battered and broken in the middle of this ring with your name being forgotten in the history books. Cause if so, I look forward to whooping your ass. Yeah. The final messages are in. There's nowhere else to go aside from Las Vegas. The World Heavyweight Championship match is on, and it starts out hot as LA Knight punches Gunther to the ropes before sending him over the top rope to the outside. Though the megastar wants to join the ring and all, so he dives onto him, although he gets caught and planted back first onto the hardest part of the ring. And to add insult to injury, Gunther then hurls him into the barricade. Although after this, he looks to do the same thing as he's done to many before Knight. Although he manages to escape Gunther's grasp with a multitude of punches. And from here, Knight then sends him into the ring post skull first. He's stunned, and Knight attempts to take advantage of this by looking for a huge dive from the top rope once again. Although with the power of Zeus, Gunther catches him once again powerbomb style and plants him back first into the ring post, although he doesn't let go, as he then smashes Knight into the announcer's table as well. And after putting him back into the ring, Gunther demands for Knight to fight, which he most certainly does, although he gets nearly decapitated through a gruesome lariat. Yet he survives, so Gunther then goes to the top rope and looks for a splash, although as he descends from above, he gets caught with a BFT out of nowhere. Although Gunther kicks out at one. Yet Knight continues the onslaught as he looks for another, yet it gets countered as he gets dropped by a forearm and chop. Then Gunther takes Knight on a trip to Suplex City as he nails one, then another, and another, until he finally decides to go back to the top rope, although Knight attempts to block whatever Gunther was going for, although after a mighty fight, this fails. Or so you think, as Knight hurls Gunther into the center of the ring. Although Knight knows he needs more, so he prepares for a second BFT, yet this gets countered once again, and in response, Gunther this time launches Knight across the ring with his head before obliterating him with a drop kick. Although he can't complete the trifecta, as the powerbomb gets countered yet again, but Gunther then manages to boot Knight down before going to the top rope and finally connecting the splash. But Knight kicks out at two, so the ring and all goes back to what he knows best, the rear naked choke. Although before he can properly cinch it in, the megastar is able to escape and batter Gunther in retaliation. Although what comes around goes around, as the champion snaps back with strikes of his own, and this quickly turns into a pure fight, as both men trade strikes with neither man yielding. Although out of sheer desperation or out of pure instinct, Knight manages to connect a second BFT before sprawling into the cover. And this time, he gets a 2 count. Will 3 do the trick? Well, even though Knight manages to hit it, Gunther, with everything he has left, rolls to the outside. It's heartbreak for the megastar. He thought that was it, but apparently not. So instead he goes for the dive he failed to hit earlier in the match, and this time he connects it. Though Knight doesn't mess around even for a moment as he hurls Gunther back into the ring before nailing his megastar elbow. But he wants more, so he looks for an avalanche one, yet Gunther is able to move out of harm's way, which buys him enough time for him to fly off the top rope with a brutal missile drop kick. Knight could be in trouble. And this thought is amplified rather quickly when Gunther manages to nail a powerbomb. Is LA Knight done? Is his dreams dead? Well, no. He just manages to kick out a 2. But Gunther isn't messing around either, as he instantly transitions into a crossface. Although this gets transitioned into a close roll-up near fall. And as both warriors get back up for their last stand, they charge at one another, though they both get distracted by a man Gunther injured long ago. Ilya Dragunov is here, but he's nowhere close able to compete or even get physical. So why is he back so soon? Well, it's just to distract Gunther long enough for a megastar to strike. Yet Gunther had him scouted as he counters before taking Knight down yet again before beginning to beat the unholy hell out of him. It's a sight we've seen before, and a sight that we've now seen again. Knight is a bloody mess, and Gunther only stops when he thinks the damage is done, as he then looks for the final powerbomb of the match. But as he looks to connect it, Knight catches him in a triangle choke. No one can believe it. Everyone thought Knight was done, but you should know better than to count him out. Gunther has nowhere to go, yet he tries to rise out of the submission, but this doesn't work as Knight cinches the hold in tighter. Gunther even effectively hits a deadlift powerbomb, although the hold won't budge, until finally we see a sight gods dream of as Gunther passes out. LA Knight has the submission victory over Gunther, something only Ilya Dragunov has done to him in WWE. LA Knight is your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. It's one hell of a feel-good moment. After all the hardship, all the loss, all the neglect, and finally, LA Knight is on top of the world. But whilst he's on top, Gunther is at rock bottom. He's lost everything he's ever wanted. He's lost everything he's ever earned. And it's all because of Ilya Dragunov.